We're on there. All right, come on back. I give you a little longer than normal, but you guys are chatty this morning, hanging out, having fun. That's good. I love it. That is part of the church. That should be always. We are starting through a summer series. We're calling it Wise With ... We are looking at the Proverbs, and we are going to be reading through those. So I'd encourage you, if you are wanting to join along, and even with your family, or maybe individually, or gather a couple people together, read a proverb a day. The great thing about Proverbs is there's 31 of them. And so if you don't know where to be at in the month of July, just think of the date and then turn to that proverb, and that's the proverb for the day. Great way. And, with Proverbs, they are words of wisdom. And Jeff did a great job last Sunday just sharing about the fear of the Lord being the beginning of wisdom. And really what I see that statement meaning is that when we understand that what God thinks about us matters far more than any man or person, that's when we're in the right. We understand that, God, if I'm in right alignment with you, if I'm doing what you desire, that's where wisdom begins. It's recognizing, acknowledging that the fear of the Lord, the understanding that what he thinks about us matters the most. And so that is the beginning of wisdom. Proverbs, if you were to read through them, they are not all promises from God. In fact, you'd rather see them as general ways in which God can work and does work in this world. Many times you'll read through Proverbs and you'll think, oh, this makes sense. I see this practically living out in everyday life. And so we really look at this as a summer where it's just some practical, down-to-earth, good wisdom. If you've never read through the Proverbs, I'd encourage you to join in. And then, maybe you'll just start to think, oh, man, that makes sense. Or, oh, I should take this course of action. In general, they will be a blessing to your life. But I want to say this. God has a way of working, and he always, there's like a framework around how he works. You can kind of understand this is generally how God works, but you never can put a pin on God. And I think he does that because he says, my ways are higher than your ways. My thoughts are higher than your thoughts. And so it's not as if, hey, I'm living this way, so this should all happen. In fact, go read the book of Job. His friends came with Proverbs, right? They were saying, Job, you did something wrong. This is how the life works. It's not always that way. And in those times when it's not working, we trust God's sovereignty and his goodness, and that he is working for our good and his glory. This morning, we're going to touch on marriage. And if you're married in the room, and even if you're not, maybe you're a single person, and maybe you recognize there's a desire in you to be married, this will be some hopefully good wisdom for you this morning. But our desire is to encourage and strengthen and build up those who are married, and just give you a greater love for each other, and see God's desire for your marriage to be a life-giving example to others around this community and to your children. If you were to look for wisdom from Solomon on marriage, you're probably not going to get great wisdom from Solomon. In fact, Solomon, he might be known for having 700 wives, 300 concubines. I mean, just stuff that you're like, okay, Solomon, I don't know. You had a lot of wisdom, or you had a lot of knowledge, but not a lot of wisdom in this area where he lived out what he said was true. In fact, if you're reading Proverbs twice, I find this statement in there, and I think it's funny because in Proverbs 21:9, he says, it is better to live in the corner of a housetop than in a house shared with a quarrelsome wife. He says that twice. And I think it's interesting. You married 700 wives, and you thought that was going to be a good idea. I mean, you're going to have some contention going on. And Solomon, if you look at his palace, it was a big house, right? So he had a lot of space to spread out, but he was recognizing, what did I do? So anyway, if we were to look at Solomon's life, we might not get a ton of wisdom. At least we might see what not to do. But he did have some great things to say. And I want to share a couple of those this morning. Proverbs 12:4 says, "An excellent wife is a crown of her husband, but she who brings shame is like rottenness in his bones." 18:22, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord." 19:14, "House and wealth are inherited from fathers, but a prudent wife is from the Lord." We understand from these proverbs that marriage, husbands in the room, your wives are a gift from the Lord. I hope you recognize that this morning. We have the opportunity to love them the way that we know the love of Jesus, to lay our lives down for them. In fact, in Ephesians, Paul writes that this marriage is like Christ and the church. There's a similarity to the way Christ laid down his life for the bride, the church. So husbands are called to lay down their lives for their wives. Jesus said this, "Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends." We have the opportunity each and every day to express this kind of love to our spouses. This can be difficult. We recognize that in this intimate, close relationship, that can bring about some of the greatest pain. But my hope this morning is that we would stir up a love and a deepening of that love to increase your love for one another. Proverbs 11:14 says this, "Where there is no guidance, a people falls. But in an abundance of counselors, there is safety." So this morning, Melissa and I are going to share. We're going to share for a portion of this time. But I felt like it was important to have other voices in different seasons. So we kind of looked at marriage, recognizing generally the years without kids are right at the beginning a little bit shorter, so you often don't have those. There are unique situations, but we're going to speak to, Melissa and I will speak to the kids' raising years, how to keep love alive and growing. Then we have another couple that will speak into that, the empty nester stage, which is a pretty big season where all of a sudden your kids are out of the house and you're learning how to navigate life at that time. And then we have one in the retirement years, how to take advantage and continue to allow your love to grow in those years as well. So I want to invite Melissa up, and we're just going to begin to share a little bit about what we have learned, some practical wisdom through the years of what we have seen and not done perfectly, but obviously if I sit down and write these points through, I'm thinking, okay, here's some reminder. This is a good idea. So the first thing we want to just encourage you, love takes time. It doesn't happen just in a moment. There's an outpouring of time that has to happen. So keep dating. Sometimes you think about those years when you were dating, right? You had looking for every opportunity to be together, long conversations on the phone or maybe over text now. I don't know if that's or writing notes to each other. You know, you're like, oh, I want to tell you how much I love you, how beautiful you are, you know, all those things. I remember one time right after we got married, I thought, I can't imagine not having fresh flowers on the table. I failed at that. I just thought, oh, this is so easy. Just grab flowers on the way home. And I probably did it for maybe a month. I don't know. She's like, right? Those things you think, and then the practicalities of the life.
Remember, so.
Often it doesn't happen overnight, that there's kind of this slow fade from that the apathy kicks in. There's just things that demands on life that we can start to drift apart. And so I want to encourage you to strengthen and grow in your love, to take time to keep dating. And I would really just encourage, kind of simply, 20 minutes a day, 1 hour a week, one getaway a year. That would be my encouragement. I broke it down. If you were to just kind of big picture, think of a day in regards to minutes, 1,440 minutes. Say, men, you're working a 10-hour day. That's 600 minutes gone. Maybe you sleep for 8 hours, 480. You still have 360 minutes left in the day. 20 minutes to just connect in those moments, to turn and say, hey, how's the day going? Shut the door, talk to each other. Maybe if you have young kids, it's recognizing when they go down to bed, this is our time to connect, and making that a priority. Where we're at now, the best time for us is not post 10 p.m., which when you start to get older, this is an adjustment for us that we're making right now. Bedtime is not exactly at an 8 o'clock or 7:30 anymore. In fact, our kids want to stay up later than we want to stay up, and so you think, well, we don't get that, hey, everybody's in bed. That time's much harder to grab. But the gift of this season is you can shut the door. You're going to be fine. No one kill each other. And just give Mom and I 20 minutes to connect about the day. So I want to encourage you, 20 minutes a day, 1 hour a week, 168 hours in a week, 56 of them sleeping, 50 of them working. I would encourage your relationship with God first before your marriage. So even if you took 7 hours in a week, 1 hour a day with God, you know how many hours are left? Anybody mathematician really pick that up real quick? 55 hours left in the week still. 55 hours. Isn't that kind of crazy? I wonder where that time goes. Take one. Take one to just say, hey, let's get out. Let's go on a walk. Let's go bike, hike, do a puzzle, play a game, try a new restaurant, do something that creates intimacy. And can I encourage you this way, that it's not watching a show or doing like something like that, but it is something that allows conversation and deeper connection. Because that is what causes us to fall in love with each other. That's what originally drew us to one another, was looking into each other's eyes, caring about who they are as a person, and wanting to know that in a deeper way. The last one is yearly getaway. These can feel overwhelming, especially when it's younger years. It doesn't have to be expensive, but I would just encourage you, get overnight, make memories, get away. There's something about getting away from the routine of life that is so valuable. In fact, when the man who married us, he said, hey, I'd encourage you, get away, keep dating. But he also said about every 5 years, get some counseling. Bring another person into your marriage to allow them to speak into your marriage. And while we've not done that every 5 years, we've maybe done it a little more every 10 or so, but we've done it a few times over the 20 years now, almost a marriage. We just did it a couple weeks ago, and I will tell you something. When you get away and you intentionally are taking time to hear from the Lord in that, kind of in a way where you're allowing somebody to speak into issues that you have, but that person is also directing your heart towards Jesus, he does a good work. He continues to knit our hearts back together. And in fact, in areas where we can kind of get busy and start to grow hardened or cold towards one another, there is a love that he brings about once again. So I just really want to encourage you that getting away once a year, you might just go and do things that, vacation, have fun, but have a spiritual element where you're saying, God, I want to connect with my wife, my husband once again in a deep and intimate way. So 20 minutes a day, 1 hour a week, and then once a year, try to get an overnight. Melissa's going to talk to some other things in regards to that as well.
Yeah, just even as I look back on just even that, getting time together, when we had just one or two little kids, your need for a weekly date and routine doesn't feel quite as desperate, maybe. Maybe you're finding that time, or your kids are going to bed early, so it's there. But what we found in this season that we're in now, as our kids are older, life is really busy, they're up late. It's almost like I think they say, when you start to feel thirsty, you're already dehydrated, right? So that's like where we're at. We're like, oh, we need this time. So how much easier is it a good practice to just start these things now when you kind of feel like, I don't know if we really need to really go out once a week. We get this time. So important to build in that rhythm now. And as you get into different seasons where you're starting to feel like, hey, we really need this rhythm, it's already there, and you've already built that rhythm. So just an encouragement in that way. Another piece with getting away, having time together, just one-on-one, is we have to trust people with our kids. And this is a big one that we, I think, use excuses like, I'm still nursing a baby. We don't go anywhere. We don't send our kids anywhere without us. We use kind of different excuses to just not trust people. And I know that there's good reason to not trust people, but at some point, we have to trust people with our kids. You might think, well, how do you get away for the night when, nobody in our family's sleeping through the night? That's reality. That happens. Those are seasons. We have to be okay with it anyway. Maybe you have family close by, too, and that is a gift, and you can utilize those built-in babysitters. When Tim and I moved up here, we had just the 2 girls, our oldest, and they were 2 and not even 1 yet. And that was a huge shift for us. We had never had anybody watch our kids other than our family. And so I was like, ooh, I'm in a totally new community. I don't know anybody, nor do I trust anybody. I'm not going to trust any of you, And it took a long time for me to kind of think out of just necessity, I need somebody to watch my kids. We had different events at the church or different things where I couldn't bring them. I needed somebody. And so it took a little work, but I was able to find people. And so I would just encourage you, find people. Find people you can trust. Invite them over. I used to invite youth kids over and just hang out with them regularly so I could get to know them, get to know kind of what their family was like, watch them with my kids, and then I'd be like, okay, these ones I think I can trust with my kids, at least for an hour or two. So there's just practical ways to kind of find that. And again, Tim talked about 1 hour a week. That is pretty short. That is a very short time. And even if everything goes terribly, that's a very short time. Your kids will be okay. I remember, Tim's dad, right at the beginning of having Addie as a baby, she might have been 3 weeks old. He was like, why don't you guys go out to dinner and I'll watch Addie for you? And I was like, well, okay. That sounds kind of nice, because I've been with this baby for a lot, I'm ready for a break. It'd be nice to just sit and have dinner and talk to Tim without this baby. And so we took her over there, and we left, and we just were like, okay, we'll be back in an hour, And so quickly go get dinner close by. And I remember we came back with, maybe an hour, maybe a little more than an hour, and we could hear Addie screaming as we got into the driveway. She was in the house. Sorry, Addie, I didn't ask your permission on telling this story. I'm realizing. But now you just sing loudly, so it's okay.
Still not screaming, singing. So that's good.
But we walked in the house, and Tim's dad is sitting at their piano, holding Addie like this, and just plunking away at piano keys. And he's holding her, and he's just got a smile on his face, and he's just totally, totally calm and peaceful in him. And she's just screaming, And I'm like, oh, my goodness. And he's like, she's fine. She's totally fine. She's just mad. She just wanted you, And in that moment, it was just a good lesson for me because I was like, you know what? She is fine. Yes, she is just expressing, as a baby can, that she wants her mom or dad or whatever, but for an hour, she's okay. Even if she cried probably most of that hour, it's okay. I think of another time we had a really good friend. She was a high schooler in Oak Harbor, and she had watched our kids a lot, and we had just had Ezra. He's not in here, so that's good. And he was crying and giving her the hardest time, and she's got the 3 kids, and she was like, we came home, and the girls are like next to her, and she's in Tim's sweatshirt, and she's rocking Ezra, and she's like, I don't know, I've tried on all your guys' clothes to try to get like the smell of you on me so that like he would just stop crying, but she was totally fine. She was happy. She's like, I don't know, I couldn't get him to stop. The girls were fine. Ezra was fine. He just wanted me, And so I just remember looking back at those moments where sometimes it feels so hard to leave your kids. What is going to happen? Are they going to be okay? And we've come back when they've not been okay and they've been fine, And it's just that they want us, and it's okay. So really just trying to trust people. I have one more story. I think this one's a good one, too, that I want to share. Getting away when you have little kids is really hard, especially overnight. There were a lot of years we didn't do that because it is really hard, and you don't have family around. Who am I going to watch our kids overnight? That's a whole different deal, okay? But we also had a great older lady who kind of became like a grandma to our kids when we were in Oak Harbor. And right after we had Ivy, so we had all 5 kids, and Ivy was probably like 6 or 8 months. She said, hey, we'll take your kids overnight for an anniversary, We'll take them all. And I was like, are you sure? Like, I'm still nursing Ivy. She is not sleeping through the night at all. And she's not a happy baby if she doesn't have me. So are you sure? And she's like, totally fine. It's one night. She's like, oh, it will be fine. So we took them to her house, and we went, and we spent a great 24 hours away by ourselves. And we came home, and Ivy had not slept hardly at all. My friend was exhausted, but she was totally happy that she could take the kids for us, and she was like, I'll sleep. She's like, you guys are leaving. I'll go to bed. She's like, it's no big deal. So those kinds of people, if you can find, those are gifts because they really don't mind. It's okay. That's not their normal, and they can send you all away and go have a break for the next week, And so take advantage and work hard at finding those people that you can trust to do that for you. Just some practical advice in getting away. Young kids, put them to bed early. They do not need to stay up past 7 or 8. Put them to bed. Dads, put them to bed. It's okay.
I probably failed both ways that. just honest.
And then older kids, that is true, but they want to stay up later, but that's okay for them to have boundaries. And we can shut the door, and we can say, we get 30 minutes, and the next 4 hours after that, you can have our attention. But for 30 minutes, nobody come knock on the door unless you're dying. And if you are, just go to the neighbor across the street because we want 30 minutes. The other thing about getting away is stay local. You don't have to go anywhere. Take your kids to somebody else's house and just stay at your own house. It's so nice to be in your own house with no kids. And you can stay in a nearby hotel. Those things are just, don't make it complicated. It can be easy, when there are harder things of getting out the door. So something that we have found, too, as we have been more consistent in this, sometimes at the beginning, it feels like when we have our time together, all we're doing is talking about the details. Who's going where, when, how are we getting this kid to that, what do we need to do for this week for something, and it can kind of feel like, wow, 30 minutes went quick, and we just basically got through the checklist of, like, what we need to do to survive. So, but what we found is as you are consistently doing that, you are faster at the details because you've been checking in more frequently, and so then you have more time. Yeah. And again, this is just a really small investment into your marriage that has huge benefits. So It's very practical, very simple, but it can really bless your marriage. And as we go on to the next thing, so that was kind of keep dating, take time to really invest and love one another. Secondly, we have just really found, continue to discover and grow together. I don't know if you realize this, but when you married somebody, you didn't just marry them, you married their family and their history that came with that. Do you know really well your spouse's history? I'm sure you do, because you got to know them when you were dating. But do you really know how that history has really affected them and how they think and how they react in different situations, the lens in which they approach life? When I married Tim, I knew the death of his mom right before he turned 16 had a huge impact on him. Who would that not impact, right? So I knew that in my head. I knew Tim's going to have thoughts and things that kind of are around his mom's death as a teenager that I'm sure we're going to have to work through over the years. But even today, and even the time that we just had away, there's more discovery in that as he shares more, and as I listen to that, I'm like, oh, okay, that's why you do this. There's more pieces to the puzzle to discover. And when he married me, did he have any idea how sensitive I would be when it seemed like work maybe takes more of an important role than time with us as a family? There's history in that for me, and so when I react and I'm sensitive about, hey, you were 10 minutes late from work, don't do that. He is learning and understanding.
10 minutes, wow, I didn't know I was that good.
Where does that come from? And it's an ongoing work of really investing in knowing our spouse and the lens that they see a lot of those things through.
Yeah, I think that, if we keep dating, just encourage you guys. Maybe that gives you some things to evaluate even just in this next week, simple steps. And then, keep discovering that growth. The season of raising kids, it changes, and we're going to bring up some people who have been in different seasons that are really ahead of where we're at. But we wanted to share because we know there's a good portion of this church has a lot of kids, right? So there's a lot of you that are in this same season. But then there's a decent amount that will be ahead that you'll hopefully identify, gain some wisdom from these next couples that we'll share here this morning. So I want to invite up Tom and Mary. They're a military couple, retired now, but not really retired military, but you're still working. So I'm going to let them explain what they have been doing and really just sharing about this season of their marriage as they don't have their kids at home anymore and how the Lord's kind of worked in them and what that maybe just share a little bit about where you come from, a little bit of your history, as well as then how you're keeping your love and your marriage growing in this season.
Thank you. Sure. Hello, everyone. Tom and Mary. Yes, military couple. And I think the reason that's relevant this morning is that we did not have much of the marriage without children phase, in that we dated more in a group of friends, and then we decided to become a couple, to get married. And I was working up for a deployment during that time and then deployed. And Mary was involved in foreign mission work at that time in youth ministry. And so we had a one-page piece of paper with all the months on it, had the little squares for the days, and we would mark green when we were together and red when we were apart. And over that first year of marriage, literally our days together approximated just about 30 days. And so our whole first phase of marriage was that. And then I came home from deployment, and we had a child. So we started the phase of raising our children. We have 3 boys, now all out of the home. But I will say that we cherished that phase together. We cherished stewarding the children that God had given us and raising them up. But we also cherish our relationship. And so I just want to give you 3 scriptures. I'm not going to read them all, but it's good to pray God's word back to the Lord, right? And so we have believed that. And so 3 of the scriptures that have been foundational, and I guess our prayers for ourselves as a couple. The first is Psalm 90, verse 17, which talks about, establish the work of our hands, Lord. Yes, establish the work of our hands. And that's a powerful cry unto the Lord. The second, and that was Psalm 90, verse 17. The second is 2 Timothy 2, verses 20 and 21. And that talks about being a vessel for honor. So there's vessels made for different purposes. And we want to be, in the Lord's mercy, used as vessels for honor, for his purposes. And the third, that was 2 Timothy 2, verse 20 and 21. And the third is Revelation 5, verse 12. And that speaks about the Lamb who was slain, receiving the rewards for his sufferings. And so a foundational prayer, paraphrasing from these scriptures in our life, has gone something like this. Lord, please establish us in our calling and ministry as a couple. Establish the work of our hands, Lord. Yes, establish the work of our hands, that we might carry out the highest callings and taskings that you have for us in our lives, and that we would please you, Lord, and that the Lamb might receive the complete rewards for his sufferings in our lives. And so over the years when we were raising children, that was foundational in how we worked together to steward our children. But also as I continue to deploy and be away a lot, that common purpose, that foundational thread, I would say, in our marriage of us wanting the Lord's highest calling and taskings to be carried out in our lives, that we might allow the Lord to receive the rewards of his sufferings in our lives, that built a foundation of common purpose and trust beyond our children. Because there is a scary moment, I would say, when your children are suddenly gone and it's just you two again. And again, we never had that before, so we're discovering this. Who are we together with maybe, I say this hesitantly, but without the distraction of our children, right? Now we're still involved in their lives. We love them very much, but they're away and we are together, and there's more time now. So the time that you talk about, what do we do here together? And so that foundational common purpose, and I just want to mention this as a parameter as well. When I was away on deployment, when Mary is away on the things, the trips and the missions that she went away on, the trust in each other, that I understand that you'll put parameters on your behavior when you're gone, when we're alone, apart from each other, because we both so desperately want the Lord's highest calling to be carried out in our lives. And so that limits, it's a protection, if you will, that yes, we trust each other. And it also helped, I'll just joke. I brought some pictures home from deployment, and just Mary made a comment once. I see you're wearing your wedding ring in your pictures. I said, yeah, of course I'm wearing my wedding ring. I wouldn't have thought of that. But again, that trust of when I'm away, when she's away, we're still bound together as one person, our common calling and our heart together. And so now, if some of that was high up, Mary will tell us how to more practically walk that out in our lives.
I'm not sure about that. Hi, I'm Mary, and I'm looking at the verse back here. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband. You know what? I have an excellent husband. Like he's a really good man, for real. And I remember when we first got married in Oak Harbor, because I'm actually from Whidbey. We went to a wedding about 2 weeks after our own, and before we actually had the next 6 months apart. But somebody at the wedding, at the end of it, we were walking through the line, and somebody grabbed hold of both of us and said, "Can I just talk to you guys? We've never seen this person before." We're like, "Okay." So we stepped out of the line, and they said, "I don't know how you feel about this, but I think this is from the Lord. Neither one of you is going to know more than 2 steps ahead what's going to happen in your life." And that was it. "Have a great day." I'm like, "Oh, this is nice. Great. I'm a newlywed," and he flies planes on carriers and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't sound good. I'd like a little something smooth. But from that point on, and we both were really touched by that, but from that point on, we really realized that no matter what was going to happen in any season of our life, the Lord was going to bring a light 1 to 2 steps ahead that we could trust. And through that, about 20 years ago, we got a job and a call out to Annapolis, Maryland, to work at the Naval Academy. He taught out there for a long time, and we also were in campus ministry there. And our very first night, a young midshipman couple, they were about to graduate, came up to us and said, "Hey, can you have it all?" And she was actually talking to me like, "Can you be a wife and a mother and a professional? Can you have it all?" And I was like, "No, you can't. You can't. But whatever Christ is calling you to, he will give you just what you need, even if it's just 1 or 2 steps ahead." But the Lord had called us that night to talk about finishing well. It was our very first night of speaking at Officers Christian Fellowship. I don't know if anybody in here has heard of that ministry, but we wound up being in Annapolis and being involved in that ministry for a very long time. And somehow that first night, focusing on finishing well became a theme of our married life, of raising 3 sons who were maniacs, if you know our kids. They're all in the Navy, doing big Navy things, but they were really maniacs at home. We never could get anybody to watch them. We did overnights, but it was like Thomas would come home and he'd say, "You probably need an overnight," and I'd be like, "That'd be great, because nobody's going to watch our kids." And they're all really solid young men now, but they live far away. But anyway, so finishing well. So as we were going through our lives with our kids, we always had that in the back of the mind. Wow, we want to finish well. Is it finishing raising our kids well? Is it finishing life well? I don't know what it is, but that's all I want to focus on. And so when there were tough times, and there were a lot of tough times, we've been married 31 years, and saying goodbye to your kids, or knowing they're in some crazy training, or someone's blowing something up, or jumping out of a plane, or diving, or doing crazy things, are we trusting the Lord that he will allow us to finish well? Does that son know the Lord and know that when he does those crazy things that he is being held in the Lord's hands? And did we represent Jesus authentically in our family life? Did we mean what we said? Did we apologize when we were wrong? Did we invite them into the fun times and give glory to God for the crazy, goofy times that we had as a family? Do we still pursue our kids? Yeah, because all of those things for us in our family, those are the things that keep us striving towards finishing well, not only as a married couple, but as a family, as we're all on this road to journey back home. And so I would just say, in this phase of life, we chase our kids. We've got them all over the place, but that's our priority, and they invite us in. But we chase them down because we want to show them that family life is generational, that time together is not, it's crazy when you're raising them. It's also a little crazy when they're out of the house. when you're pursuing relationship with them as adults. But we want to show them that even at this phase of life, hey, you guys, mom and dad are still pursuing you. We love it when you pursue us and invite us into your lives because we're all trying to finish well. That's the goal. So I'll pass that back to my excellent husband.
Just my last sentence is, and our children now look to us, it surprised us a little bit. They look to us. Does your marriage, does it still represent what we want to try to build in our lives, in our marriage? And so it's important that we have a solid marriage because our children are looking to us to say, is that a foundation? Is it solid? Is it strong? Because I want to try to build that, and they want that example for us.
Great.
From us.
Yeah, does that endure? I appreciate that, Tom. Can you thank Tom and Mary? I want to invite up Jose and Gaida. What I love about Jose and Gaida is that you see 4 generations in this church from them. They are mother and father to Mark Rodriguez, who has the boys, David, Alex, and Evan, and then they got their grandbaby, one over here, and one, she's in class, yeah, good. Chloe's away, but neat to have those generations. So, talking about kind of these retirement years, how is that? Yeah, you want to stay?
I just want to give myself a little break and take all the information that we received just now as a guidance from God for each one of us. So my prayer is what we are going to say is going to enrich your lives, and that you'll be interested in what God has for you. And each one of the persons in here should be touched by what Tim has done. I'm bringing these couples to share, because this is not what we do professionally. And so we are one of you. I don't see any strangers here, by the way. I don't see any strangers. I see people that I haven't met yet, but they're no strangers because they are brothers and sisters in the Lord. And so Tim has given us a very tough task to talk about 80 years of life in 5 minutes. So
Impossible, actually.
I'm going to try to dilute. My wife just leaned over and she says we had to change our format because we had been practicing for what we're going to say in 5 minutes. Let me say that her name is Gaida. She was born in Latvia, and we met in Lincoln, Nebraska. I was born in Caracas, Venezuela, and we were married in 1966. And we had 2 children, and the Lord has been the leader of this adventure that we are in, that we call life. And so we want God to lead your life also as He has led our lives. And this is a kick. I mean, this is amazing. So I don't have too much time. She told me to talk first. I cannot talk when I'm sitting down. and so you can see the differences in here. She was born in the North Pole, and I was born in the tropics. So I'm sure that some of our friends says that's not going to last. Sorry?
No, start talking about our lives.
No, I'm not going to talk about our lives. I'm going to talk to you about what God has done for us and how He has done it for us. First of all, at any time that you use the word teenagers, do it in a positive way. Do never allow yourself, your home, or your pastor to say anything that is degrading about teenage years. Expectations is what you're going to get. If you expect your children to follow the Lord, you follow the Lord. Don't make rules. They will follow what you do, and that, a very short one. Our boy is leaving the house for the first time. He's 16, 17. He's going to drive, and he opens the door, and he turns around, and he says, "Dad, when is curfew?" And I said, "No curfew." And my wife fainted. And she's telling me that I'm saying too much, but that's true all the time. So Remember, when you're raising children, that your expectations are a driven river through their lives, and that's what they, that's what you're putting into them. Don't make rules. Treat your children like God treats you. Mm-hmm. How does God treat me? How does God treat me? I want to treat my children so that it's almost natural. So if you read The Prodigal Son and you pay attention to the dads and his love, respect, and trust are absolute. They are, this is exactly how he treats me. God treats me he loves, trusts, and respects me. And so I want to treat my children in the same way. And I'm going back many years. By the way, I retired the day I turned 80 years old. So, and that was 7 years ago. Is that right? So be sure that you respect, love, and trust your children unconditionally, because that's the way that God treats you, okay? I just wanted to give you a couple little diamonds in here and not bore you too much with the details of, the other thing that I wanted to tell you is that not only your children you treat that way, you treat people that way. You love, trust, and respect people, and you can see what the feedback is for you it is just amazing the way that God works when you follow that little advice right there. And I'm going to turn it over to my wife, unless she'd want me to say something else. Oh, that's it.
Anyway, to me,
one more thing.
You handed over the mic.
We practice this one, so to get you awake, to wake you up. I forgot what I was going to say.
Take it away, guys.
anyway, to me, family has always been important. And first of all, about our marriage, all through our life, I have always tried to be, have harmony and peace in our home. So in Romans 12 at the end, where it says, as possible, as it is possible with you to live in harmony with each other. So I tried to always be, not really a peacemaker, but just to not be arguing and fighting. And then the next verse is in Exodus that that you can be angry or disgusted, but then don't let the sun go down on your anger. Yeah. And anyway, you can't sleep anyway if you're mad at your spouse or whatever. So right at the beginning, whenever there was any kind of a disagreement or whatever we were talking, we would try to settle it. Either try to settle it before we go to bed, or say we'll talk about it in the morning, definitely, and see, and then like I said, family, and I was very privileged that I could stay home and be a stay-at-home mom, and even when we have Mark and Julie, we have a daughter in Bellingham, even when they're in high school and they say that I thank you for being able to be at home when I'm coming home from school and all that. So that meant very much to me. Mm-hmm. And also continue with as we, in our marriage, I know people were saying how to spend time together, and now in our retirement, we enjoy working in the yard or or we go on walks and kind of talk about what needs to be talked about at that time, at that day. Then also, as far as family, I am very thankful that we prayed for our children to have a spouse ready someplace that isn't a Christian for them. And thank the Lord that both our son Mark here and our daughter and Julie married good Christian spouses. And the same thing with our grandchildren. When they came, we prayed that there was a spouse somewhere for them. And sure enough, the Lord gave them wonderful spouses. The three here, and our granddaughter in Bellingham also had married a Christian spouse. And so then I also have to commend Renee for having weekly dinners so that we can get together as a family, because not only that we have good things to eat and just talk about things that went on during the week, but also things have been brought up during those discussions that are prevalent to our lives, and we're hopefully we can be as an example. And when they have said that we're thankful that we're after 60 years still together and being an example of what a Christian marriage should be. So that's our striving to do that, and now in our retirement age to be available to our grandkids, and that they can come whenever they need either like some help with something or just to discuss. They can just stop in any time and just have our time, and we try to take time as they each need whatever their needs are. So
Good. Yes. Thank you, guys. Can we thank Jose and Greta this morning? Thank you. The purpose, really, we could bring up many more couples in this room that are continuing to follow the Lord, but I just brought up a couple today so that you would actually hopefully maybe connect with them afterwards, or recognize like, oh, there's a couple that I want to talk to about, because that's the desire. It's, again, the multitude of counsel, there's wisdom. And so Melissa and I will have a perspective of the way that God has worked in our marriage, but others will have different experiences that you can learn and glean from. So I hope that encourages you this morning. As we conclude, I want to read this scripture. It says in Ephesians 4:32, "Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ has forgiven you." Forgiveness is an absolute must in a marriage. It's absolutely essential that we are a people that knows the love of Christ in such a way that we are allowing that same forgiveness that we have received to then extend that to our spouse. I thought about this with clay and stone. If we allow clay to just set out in the air, what happens to it? It becomes hardened. But if you continue to add oil to it, it stays soft and it stays malleable. And that is what we desire in a marriage as we two people are becoming one. Not that we become hardened and then stop connecting. Those are sad situations in marriage counseling when you recognize people's hearts have grown hard, that unforgiveness and bitterness has built up this wall. But that we would allow through prayer His Spirit to continue to soften our hearts. Because I recognize we're talking about some good things of marriage, ways to strive, things to do, but we know that the hurt can be very deep and very real that happen in marriages. And when those build up to the point where we're so hardened that we begin to divide, then the enemy is having his way. And so I want to encourage us with that scripture to be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ has forgiven you. When we think about forgiveness and even that stuff, almost lost that. Even God forgiving us, I believe that it's the amount that we know that forgiveness that we can extend that to others. And so as we come to communion, as we always conclude on a Sunday morning, is I want to invite Addie, where are you at? There you are. Come on up. We recognize that if I don't know how much God has forgiven me, then I am much less likely to extend that to someone else, especially my spouse. I might say, well, no, that's the 5th time. That's the 6th time you've done that. Maybe that's the 20th time, and so now it's like, I'm building up a barrier. But when I really know the depth of how many times Christ has forgiven me, how gracious he has been towards me, how he has forgiven me, then that same love can extend to my spouse. And as Jose brought up, I love the story of the prodigal son, because when we are a people who are willing to release, and it may even be our spouse, to say, I'm going to trust God with you. I'm going to entrust that God is going to be faithful to speak to you versus me harping on this or that area. I'm going to trust God. I'm going to pray that you will return back. And as they do, as those things change, then you celebrate. I'm often convicted by that story because I think about that father and the hurt it would be to watch his son wander away. But yet, what is the welcome home? It's not, I told you so. You should have done this different. It's, hey, son, I'm glad you're home. If that's the kind of love we are developing in our marriage, we'll have marriages that will be thriving. Because no longer is it based on, hey, you haven't done this or you haven't done that. But it's based on a fact that, hey, I'm going to love you no matter what. That love only comes as we come to Christ and experience that in him. So I want to do that this morning as we receive communion, as we worship, that you would come with that mindset saying, Jesus, I want to experience that love in a way so that I can offer this same love to my spouse.